For the vast majority of the season, Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints have looked unbeatable. They consistently put up 30 points a game, and their defense was making plays left and right that kept their offense on the field. Last Thursday, though, it all fell apart. The Cowboys defense completely stifled the Saints offense. As I was going through all the games this week, understanding exactly what happened in this game stood out to me. How did this defense manage this incredible feat in stopping one of the best offenses in the entire league? Well, to answer that, I decided to go through the tape. But before we get to my main takeaways, here is a little bit of context so you understand the scheme a little bit better. To start, the Cowboys defense is run by defensive coordinator Marinelli. He's been with Dallas since 2013, and he became the defensive coordinator in 2014. Since he took over this role, there has been a definite and positive impact that he's had with the team. In just a few short seasons, he took them from being one of the worst units in the entire league to respectable in just a few short years. Now, I would be remiss to point out the high number of draft picks they spent on this defense over the last 5 years. Like seriously, look at this list. They spent a good amount of their first 3-round picks on defensive players ever since he became the defensive coordinator. Regardless, he's still done a really good job. Looking at the Cowboys from a schematic standpoint, Marinelli primarily plays a 4-3 over with his defensive line. He mixes in man and zone concepts, tending to favor more zone. In this defense, his most frequently called play is cover 3, and he ran this coverage on 50% of his snaps. Now, like all defensive coordinators in today's modern NFL, he'll substitute a defensive back for a linebacker in his nickel packages. What this means is that he'll play a lot of downs with just 2 linebackers on the field. With Sean Lee, who keeps getting injured, the Cowboys have had to rely on 2 young linebackers to replace him. This leads me to my first takeaway, and it has to do with his replacement. This offseason, the Cowboys drafted Leighton Vander Esch in the first round out of Boise. In his short stint with the team, he's already significantly helped him improve. While I went through the film, he was the first person that stood out to me. As a player, Vander Esch is fluid in coverage duties, and he's fast to diagnose run from passes. He was rarely out of position, and he seemed to have a natural understanding of where the play was going. What impressed me was how he instantly reacted and attacked screens and sweeps. He quickly diagnosed a backfield action and then put himself in a place to make the play. Even when the offense tried to trick him with motions and end-arounds, Vander Esch was consistently aware, and he wasn't fooled by what he saw from the offense. Now, to go along with this, I was very impressed with how this entire team defended the run. While it may not be a sexy topic, slowing down a team like the Saints who have 2 high-quality running backs makes a huge difference. It turned those 3rd and short plays into 3rd and medium, and it turned those 3rd and medium plays into 3rd and long. Versus the Saints, the defense created an average distance to convert on 3rd down at over 7 yards. Due to this awkward position, the offense was only able to convert 27% of those downs. This is incredibly low, considering that their average 3rd down conversion rate was over 45% going into this game. Now, from a run play standpoint, the Saints actually finished the game with roughly 3.5 yards per carry on the ground. While this isn't awful, they did most of that on tosses. They ran a toss play 3 times, and that gained 25 of their rushing yards. This was their only successful running play in this game, while their standard runs, which are mostly gap and inside zone, averaged just 3.2 and 2.8 yards respectively. This ability to create these 3rd and longs is such a huge asset going up against a team like the Saints. You have to put them in these awkward down and distances in order to have a chance. The Cowboys did this so exceptionally well that it made it very difficult for them to sustain drives. Looking at the Saints offense, they would mix in screens and various running plays on 1st downs that were sparingly effective. What would happen is that they would quickly convert on a 1st down, and then on the ensuing drive, the defense would clamp down and force them into a 3rd and long situation. That's what happened at the beginning of the 2nd quarter. The Cowboys defense batted down a screen pass on 1st down, then on their 2nd down play, they held Alvin Kamara to just a 1-yard gain. That brought us to this 3rd and 9 on the Saints' 22-yard line. On this play, the Cowboys were in man coverage. They had 2 safeties on the field and rotated 1 deep while the other jumped underneath to look for crosses. Drew Brees started the play by looking to his first read on the left. He saw a one-on-one with Traquan Smith versus Byron Jones. Jones covered him well on his stutter go, so Brees smartly moved on to his 2nd read. Michael Thomas ran a drag route, looking to cross Jordan Lewis, who was standing in the center of the defense. Since Thomas had inside leverage and a free release on his man defender, he would have had an easy 1st down if he was allowed to catch this ball. However, what Lewis did here was amazing. Instead of crashing on his assignment, which was Alvin Kamara coming out of the backfield, he delayed his coverage and patiently shut down the drag throw to Thomas. This told Brees that his route was covered, so he's forced to move on to Kamara. Lewis then burst at his true assignment the instant that Brees moved on, and he tackled Kamara for a quick 4-yard gain. Yes, in this play he did allow the completion, but remember, a 4-yard completion on a 3rd and 9 is obviously better than allowing another defender to give up a 1st down. This was a very smart play, and it's clear that the Cowboys defense was ready for this exact situation. This preparation I talked about in this last play was all over the Cowboys film. On this next play that we'll talk about, you can see how preparation and execution once again stifled the Saints offense. After the snap, Brees ran a fake to his running back. The goal of this play design was to simulate a toss to the left sideline while the slot receiver ran a crossing route in the opposite direction. However, the Saints weren't ready for Anthony Brown to aggressively attack this route. Before the receiver even made his cut, Brown broke on the receiver. You can clearly see him step to attack the crossing route as soon as Keith Kirkwood cleared the linebackers. Brown knew what was coming based on his film study, and he understood how to gain leverage on this play. After the receiver made his break, Brown set on the outside hip of Kirkwood, and then he drove on the ball using his inside hand to break up the pass. This is just a perfect example of how film study and execution paid off perfectly for this team. Now, before moving on from this play, I want you to watch what the safety did here in order to help Brown maintain his aggression. He opened his hips to cover deep as Brown jumped underneath on the crossing route. Xavier Woods was there to protect any deep pass if the receiver ran a double move. Now imagine if the receiver ran an in and up route as opposed to the crosser. Kirkwood would have clearly beat the cornerback, but the safety would have been there to shut it down anyways. This teamwork and trust between these two players stopped what could have been a first down conversion on this play. Outside of these first 3 points, my fourth main takeaway has to do with DeMarcus Lawrence. He was excellent against the run in this game, but he was even better at rushing the passer. For how talented the Saints offensive line is, Lawrence was still able to create 5 pressures, which kept the Saints off balance. He also had a strip sack in the fourth quarter that was unfortunately negated by an offsides penalty by Randy Gregory. After the snap, he took 3 hard steps up the field. He vertically pressed Ryan Ramczyk in order to set up his move. On his 4th step, he perfectly timed his downward swipe with the placement of his left foot. At this point, he already had the tackle beat. Ramczyk, who is a really good offensive lineman, was caught opening his hips and lunging, and Lawrence made him pay for it. This allowed him to round the corner and use his hip bend in order to finish the cornerback for a big sack and force the fumble on this play. Obviously, this didn't count in the stat sheet because his teammate was offsides, but it's still a great play regardless. When Lawrence becomes a free agent this offseason, I can guarantee you that GMs will look at this play and will salivate for him on their defense. Generally speaking, creating pressure was a much bigger factor in the first half as opposed to the second half. According to my tracking, the Cowboys defense created pressure on 38% of Drew Brees' passes in the first. However, that number substantially dropped to 20% in the second half. It was a big reason why Drew Brees only had 39 passing yards by halftime and ended this game with 127. With that being said, this leads me to my 5th and final takeaway from this game. I'm not going to say Drew Brees was why they lost. Pretty much every single player in the Saints offense played poorly, but Brees certainly wasn't good either. He started off cold, missing throws that I've seen him make, but he definitely looked better as the game went on. Throughout this game, pressure and good defensive coverage had such a huge impact on their ability to move the ball. They forced Brees into low percentage throws, and it made it very difficult for any quarterback to have a good game. This play in the first quarter really stood out to me. The Cowboys ran an end tackle stunt where the defensive end took a hard angle inside while the defensive tackle looped around behind him. This stunt is designed to force Brees to step up into a potential sack. That's what almost happened here. After the snap, Brees looked for the running back on his wheel route, hoping it was going to break open. Versus a cover 3 defense, this would probably be a good decision. However, the Cowboys were actually in man coverage. While they played cover 3 on 50% of their snaps in this game, they were in cover 1 man on 30% of their snaps by my tracking. On this play, Jordan Lewis was in man coverage on Kamara. He did a great job of not getting picked by the receivers running vertical routes, and he was there to shut down the throwing lane. I mentioned the end tackle stunt earlier, and if this stunt was picked up properly, Brees could have thrown the ball to his check down. However, the pressure was already in his face. Brees was forced to get rid of it, and the pass was almost intercepted. To wrap up this video, I have it down to these 5 takeaways. I saw Leighton Vander Esch killing it as a rookie. I saw a great run-stopping unit that is one of the best in the league. I saw a secondary that excelled at route recognition due to their preparation. And finally, I saw how pressure by guys like DeMarcus Lawrence and Malik Collins affected a guy like Drew Brees' performance. Now, it's obviously a tall order to expect this sort of domination day in day out from this defense, but this unit showed us enough that I think they could do some damage in the playoffs. I don't trust their offense just yet to consider them a serious contender, but if they get a good matchup in the wildcard round, I can easily see them making a division title appearance. They have the talent, and on any given Sunday, they're a dangerous team if it all comes together. Well, that's all I have for you in this one. For the rest of the season, MyBookie is my official sponsor. If you want a 50% sign-up bonus for up to $1,000, you can use the promo code Samuel50. I'll continue doing breakdowns like this one all season long, and on Saturday mornings, I'll also be giving betting advice as well. You are more than welcome to join in, bet against me, or bet on one of the many other sports and games they offer. This weekend, I might be a bit MIA, and that's just because Super Smash Bros. Is coming out. I'm a huge fan, and I'm going to play a ton of it, so I might not be as responsive to messages. Regardless, thank you so much for all of your support and for watching my videos. If you want to keep this channel going, you can support me on my Patreon account, or you can find me on Twitter at Samuel R. Gold.